Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today is something special. It's the mid-year review of 2014. I've been debating with myself pretty consistently over the past few weeks whether or not to even make this list. It's a pretty common thing with critics to take stock of their favorites at this particular point of the year, especially on YouTube, and considering that I've covered thus far 108 albums so far this year, in terms of sheer volume, it just makes sense for me to go back and take stock of what I've already heard and what deserves consideration going into the second half of the year. And while I'm a little bit leery of spoiling my year-end list, longtime fans will probably be able to figure that out anyways, so why not go the extra mile and draw a spotlight to some acts that definitely are worth the added consideration if you haven't heard of them yet. So, without further ado, we're gonna start with number 12, Bring Up the Sun by Sunday Best. Then I gathered myself with the rage of hell, went back to the city made of gold. Let me stress here that this lower slot faced a lot of heated competition, and ultimately I made a series of calls on which records were consistently strong or didn't have that element that really got on my nerves and irked me. But you know what? There are some albums that can be elevated by a few incredible standout tracks, and Bring Up the Sun by Sunday Best was definitely one of them. Riotous, fiercely energetic, and yet with real heartfelt power lurking beneath the snarled guitars and the thunderous cajon, this country duo vaulted ahead and easily earned their slot on this list. If only they had a better choice of singles. Work on that. Number 11, the self-titled record from Clipping.
Never shake when you wake up in recovery, but suddenly noticing ashes covering his head cause it's raining from the sky. Dials home on his cell phone and gets no reply. What the fuck, where is
You know, if I was looking to introduce a mainstream rap fan to the inaccessible world of noise rap, I would give them the self-titled major label debut of Clipping. Sinister yet a bitter parody of mainstream rap that revels in shoving the dark, gory underbelly in the spotlight. Clipping delivered a horrifying and yet fiercely compelling, incredibly accessible, and very listenable album that shows a ton of real promise for the future. Keep it up, guys. Number 10, Road Between by Lucy Hale. The overlooked Dark Horse entry that everyone and their mother is going to ignore for all of the wrong reasons, Road Between by Lucy Hale should not be as great as it is. Taking the Taylor Swift formula and upending it with sharper hooks, a more soulful and mature vocal delivery, and songwriting that is just leaps and bounds above her contemporaries, this record shows exactly how great pop country can be if done right, and how it does not deserve to be overlooked by both the mainstream and the country underground alike. Seriously, guys, check this album out. You will not regret it. Now, before we continue on with the countdown, let's take a moment to highlight 7 songs from albums that did not make this list, yet still definitely deserve consideration nonetheless. Yes, 7 songs, in no particular order, and there will be more. So without further ado, Roland by Kid Ink from the album My Own Lane.
You know what the time is, go ahead and picture a rollie on my hand. You know what the time is, you know what the time is, go ahead and picture me rolling. Go ahead and picture me rolling.
Bangin' Sound by Step Brothers featuring Fashion from the album Lord Stepping.
Let me start with the evidence and kill the allegations. It's low treble, high bass, my kill for calibration. Syncing up perfect to the rhythm of my own kit. Driven by
True Trans Soul Rebel by Against Me from the album Transgender Dysphoria Blues. Competition by Little Mix from their album Salute. She Don't Love You from the self-titled album by Eric Paz.
Just lonely. She don't know another way to break free from what's been broken. cowboys rode away.
Turn Away by Beck from his heartbreaking album Morning Phase.
Turn away from the sound of your own voice, calling no one.
And finally, Here on Earth by Dirk Bentley from his album Rising.
Left unturned, not a piece of my soul that I ain't searched. The only answer I found for all this hurt is there ain't no answer here on earth.
And now back to the list. From our number 9, the self-titled album from St. Vincent.
So bring me your loves, all your loves, your loves, I wanna love them too, you know. Bring me your loves, all your loves, your loves, I wanna love them too, you know.
You know, if clipping is making noise rap accessible, St. Vincent is doing the same for her brand of abrasive, hard-edged Baroque pop. Abrasive, yet still irrepressibly catchy. Arrogant yet soulful, alien yet very human and dangerously clever at that. St. Vincent put together an album framed around human interaction and the usage of technology, showing a possibility how we might regress to simpler, more brutal times, and yet a desperate hope that humanity's core would yet survive in the end. Either way, this album is incredible, and it's an incredible slice of pop nonetheless. You all need to check it out. Number 8, Sun Structures by Temples.
Tears fell upon the fire, fell upon us early in the morning. Haze fell into the sea, sunset of the east, you and I
You know, it exasperates me to absolutely no end. This record has been branded as a throwback to the glory days of psychedelic rock by so many critics and summarily dismissed on that note. And yeah, it bears a lot of the hallmarks of that sound, to be sure, but it opts for a heavier focus, tighter melody lines, and lyrics that are refreshingly self-aware about the band's sound and musical direction, and provides commentary on it. And combined with the moody darkness towing the thin lines between the psychedelic acid high and the acid crash, Temples remains one of the definite standouts for me of this year. So check it out. Number 7, To Be Kind by Swans. Critically acclaimed, a behemoth of over 2 hours that demands attention and patience and yet remains famously inaccessible, Swan's To Be Kind remains one of the band's best records through precise focus, killer grooves, and moments of pure visceral climax that no other band will be able to mimic this year. And yet it proved to actually have a brain behind the brawn, aiming for primal emotions of ecstasy and attempting to capture the exaggerated emotions of how a very small child might see the larger world in such brilliant shades around them. Either way, it's an incredible effort and definitely shows Michael Giera's insane genius manifest yet again. If you haven't heard it, put aside 2 hours and go check it out. And now we're halfway through our countdown, so I think it's time to highlight another 7 songs, in no particular order, from albums that did not make this list, and yet songs that are worth considering nonetheless. So in no particular order, Home by American Authors from Oh What a Life.
I'm not trying to stop a hurricane. I'm not trying to shake the ground below. I'm just trying to find a way to make it back home.
Lucky by Karen Olsen from the album Oklahoma Lottery.
I got 5 cards, now one is an ace. You're gonna trump me, baby, I can see it on your face. You might have better cards, but darling, you're giving yourself away.
Die and Rise by Lacuna Coil from the album Broken Crown Halo.
And take a bite of life.
Sea of Dolls by Delayed from the album The Human Contradiction.
Do you want me? Do you want me? The best you've ever known. Do you want me? I will break it, make it loud.
Broken Again by Pharaoh Monch from the heartbreaking album Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder.
Smashed it against the wall in the kitchen. On the floor going through withdrawals, I was itching. She rescued me, my heroin to the end. But then she morphed into heroin in a syringe. Around my bicep, I would tie a shoestring. Tap 5 times to find a vein in it.
Call to Arms by Frank Music from the album By Nicole.
Call to arms, life is okay. Carry on, take the moment. What say you, girl? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
And finally, Roundtable Rival by Lindsey Stirling from her second album, Shatter. And now, let's get back to the list. Number 6, Bang by Gotthard.
Spread your wings and fly. On your way up, you will go on and spread your wings and shine. On your way up, go and light up the brilliant sky.
You know, after the relatively disappointing album Firebirth, I was not expecting Gotthard to leap back into top form this quickly, and yet somehow they did, delivering a killer slice of innovative and creative hard rock and metal with a sense of fun and drama balanced masterfully. Bang is definitely not one of the smartest albums of the year, I can definitely admit that, but when the riffs and the hooks and the melody lines and instrumental digressions are this good, I'm not complaining. Number 5, Metamodern Sounds in Country Music by Sturgill Simpson.
So I pray and lay me down and die. Grab a glass of wine and a seat to dine and go ahead and eat the whole damn pie.
You know, it's been the critical darling of every single country music critic in the industry, and one that has every fan of alternative country that the album that they've been begging that you hear, and trust me, it deserves that acclaim. Sturgill Simpson's sophomore effort pushes the definition of pure country music to the absolute limit by delving into psychedelia and showing a real progressiveness in his lyrics and his sound, and still manages to instill with some really phenomenal heartfelt soul. And he does so, he demonstrates exactly why he deserves all that critical acclaim. If you haven't heard it, check it out. You're definitely missing out. Number 4, Pinata by Freddie Gibbs and Matt.
Cook a meal clean, and she sucked me like a vacuum. Took a vacation to the county, I'll be back soon. Sent a couple zeros, money on my day pay, paying off the COs, smoking on the gateway. Word around the block when I was locked, she gave my thing away. About to have a baby with a nigga, that's what they say. Damn.
Another incredibly big surprise the more you think about it, but one of the best from an unlikely pair that calls back to the old school days of gangsta rap. Madlib's production was on point, as always, but the real standout for me was Freddie Gibbs, showing his versatility as a real creative MC who brings incredible amounts of depth and nuance to this record through his reinterpretation of gangsta cliches with real maturity and hard-edged common sense, not to mention some old school class and dignity, and yet somehow managing to keep the vast majority of his guest stars focused lyrically and on point. Freddie Gibbs delivered a quintessential rap album that absolutely demands to be heard by everyone, so you all should have checked it out if you haven't already. And now, before we go on to our final 3 albums thus far this year, let's highlight the final 6 songs thus far this year from albums that just didn't make this list, and songs that still deserve your consideration nonetheless. In no particular order, Gunshot by Licky Lee from the album I Never Learned.
And the shine from my head and back. Gunshot
Storyline by Hunter Hayes from that album, Storyline.
Fall as hard as we want, make the story all our own, and move Shakespeare's mind. It's ours to write, it's our love and it's our life. Right or wrong, we'll write our own storyline.
Let Go for Tonight by Foxes from the album Glorious. The Second Stone by Epica from their album Quantum Enigma.
As time goes by, I hide the truth. Cannot stand myself with a broken shell. As time goes by, I try to choose. Don't know where to run in this private hell.
Automatic by Miranda Lambert from her album Platinum.
It all just seemed so good the way we had it. Back before everything became automatic.
And finally, A Fire Love by Ed Sheeran from his album Multiply.
The way you did last night, and we'll die inside a little while here. I could look into your eyes until the sun comes up, and we're wrapped in light and light and love.
And now back to our list, our final three. And coming in at number 3, we have Copper Gone by Sage Francis.
Like they've been walked in. My house to look like it's been lifted. My car to look like a coffin that's been driven off a cliff. My career. I sift through the ashes in search of survivors, digging up the earth, filling urns with dirt for what it's worth. I'm richer than the cemetery soil. Use land drilling to get my midnight oil.
You know what? The most recent entry to this list, Sage Francis returns from his hiatus as if he had never left and delivers a punishingly smart combination of hard-hitting rap music and painfully honest and sincere confessions that add incredible soul to this album. The social commentary is pointed and relevant. The instrumentation is a perfect balance for Sage Francis' raspy delivery, and the wordplay and poetry is awe-inspiring. With every single listen I have of this album, it only gets better, and you can't say that about many artists. Fine work, Sage Francis, and all the rest of you, check this album out. Number 2, Lost in the Dream by The War on Drugs. With this record, The War on Drugs finally attained the clarity of purpose that they needed to hammer home a goddamn classic. Brilliantly on-point production, incredible melodic composition, and lyrics that tap into the heartbreak that underscored that album. Lost in the Dream isn't just one of the best albums of this year thus far, it's one of the most poignant and powerful breakup albums that I've heard in a very long time. If you want to hear a fantastic breakup album in this vein, check out Lost in the Dream. You will not regret it. And finally, my number 1 pick thus far from the past 6 months, Daylight and Dark by Jason Eaton.
Conversation between the daylight and the dark. It's a worn out situation when you don't know where you are, and you can't quite find the middle, but you're somewhere in between. And the hardest part of all is that you don't know what that means.
As the only country music critic on YouTube, I cannot overstate how great Daylight and Dark is by Jason Eaton, and how it's such a damn shame that it's overlooked by so many critics and the mainstream alike. For everyone who looks down on country radio quite wrongly, Jason Eaton delivers one of the most thoughtful, beautifully melodic, and incredibly heartfelt records of this year. And the fact that it has held up as well as it has for the past 6 months after I've reviewed it is goddamn incredible. An album exploring morality in stark terms with underlying themes of loneliness, alcoholism, and aching sadness at the failure of relationships. You're not gonna find a more human record delivered in the past 6 months of this year. If you have not heard it, and I guarantee most of you haven't, go out and check it out. I highly recommend it. 6 months in, and this is my list. Any future albums coming out will have their work cut out for them to beat this pretty prime stock of quality. So let's see if they can pull it off. Until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.
But you're somewhere in between. And the hardest part of all is that you don't know what that means.